everyone, and welcome to Big Red Birdies here on 93.7 The Ticket. This is Lindsey Thiele, and I'm here with my teammate, Megan Whittaker. And tonight, we've got a good show for you guys. We are just getting back from our first tournament to kick off the spring season. So we had a golf tournament down in Florida. Got back 2 days ago. We got back Tuesday night. And so, yeah, you guys have heard us talking a lot about all of our indoor and winter break and off-season practice on here for the last few months, but we are finally out of that and back into the competition season. So that was really excited to just get the ball rolling, get that started, and that's kind of what we're going to be in for these next few months here for the remainder of the school year. So
Yeah, we had a very fun time. It was nice and warm down there. I think it was like 75, 80 every day, except for the practice round. It kind of poured on us for the first, it was like on and off pouring and like 40-mile-per-hour wind.
Yeah.
It wasn't as nice, I guess, as I think we were all hoping for that first day, but it got better.
You know, in Florida, weather is just kind of weird because here it's like you look at the weather and you see it's going to be a rainy day and it's just kind of like drizzling. It's just pretty consistent all day. And if you have a rainy day, it means you have a rainy day. But I just feel like in Florida, their showers can just come and go like that all the time. I mean, we would be standing there. I remember even when we were warming up that first day, you know, we were putting on the greens and we were hitting on the range and everything. And like the sun was out for a little bit and there wasn't a lot of wind. And we're like, okay, maybe we can put the rain jackets away. Like everything seems fine. And then by the time we got to the tee box, it felt like it had dropped 20 degrees. The sun was gone and it was like driving rain with 30 to 40 mile an hour winds for just like a 5 or 10 minute little spurt of time, and then the sun would peak out again and it would kind of calm down. So yeah, our first practice round was kind of just taking the rain jackets on and off all day long. And it would kind of get cold with the wind and the rain, and then it would like heat up so fast and then we would be sweating and getting sunburned. So it's just Florida
It was
weather.
Weird.
It's just kind of weird.
Yeah, right when we teed off in the practice round, all of a sudden it was like a 40-mile-per-hour wind and rain straight in the face. So
straight into it.
It was actually pretty interesting. Our practice rounds were very windy each day, and they were Saturday the wind was like out of the north and Sunday is out of the south. So the amount the course, like, it played so differently. I remember the first hole I in the practice round had a 4-iron into, and then the second practice round I had a pitching wedge into.
It was completely different. Which, you know, thinking back on a lot of tournaments, we don't get 2 practice rounds. We were able to go down a day early to this one just to get another day of practice on grass and everything before we started our season, which was very, very nice. But we don't get that opportunity a lot. A lot of our trips are just quick 4-day trips. We have the travel day, the practice round day, 36 whole day, and then 18 whole day, and we head home. So having this 5-day trip gave us that extra practice round to start. But I mean, good thing we did, because I thought the same thing. We played that first hole the first day, and I felt like I couldn't even really see the hole from the tee box because the rain was just
and
so
the
crazy.
wind straight into the face.
And I would say, like, standing on that tee box, that was probably the worst little 5 minutes or 10 minutes that we had of the like, our trip wasn't bad weather by any means. It was amazing weather. We all came back sunburned and just great and happy. But for the first little part, I couldn't really see the hole. I couldn't really tell what it looked like. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, how is this? This is going to be crazy. But yeah, I mean, good thing we did get that second practice round, because we went out the next day, wind behind us on the first tee box, and just a lot better of weather. And so it just looked so different.
It did. And I think it was fairly windy every round. I would say Monday was a 36-hole day, and that was the least amount of wind. Tuesday it was blowing.
It was windy,
15 to 20 the whole time, with even bigger gusts, and it was just so crazy that our practice rounds and our tournament rounds, a lot of times we can go to a course and pick very distinct start lines off of a tee shot and say, okay, yeah, this is like, you're going to aim at the right edge of this tree. This course, because of the wind, and the wind switched literally all 4 days we played. We had to have different start lines every single time. So it was like, the practice rounds, they were very helpful, but it was like, okay, like today, that's the start line, but tomorrow the wind could be 20 the other direction. So it's like not even going to be close to the same start line.
Right. I think honestly what I took from the practice rounds more was just learning how to play from the different spots on the course,
Hmm.
because each time we played the course, we were in different spots. The only spot I was ever in that was the same was the tee and the green.
Yeah.
I mean, on the green, you were in different spots too, but like, I just feel like I saw all of the fairway, all of the rough, both sides of the holes,
Hmm.
everywhere, because we just had, I mean, we had 2 full days out there on the course, different winds, different weather, different conditions. Um, so yeah, I feel like it gave us a very well-rounded view of the course. I honestly felt like I knew it pretty well by the end of this thing. I mean,
Hmm.
we
We
played
did.
5
Yeah.
rounds on it in 4 days, so I felt very, I knew the holes, and I knew, where I wanted to be and where I didn't want to be, at least. But yeah, there was that extra factor of having to calculate a bunch of wind
Hmm.
and the directions of it, and okay, how much is this going to affect it, and how much is this going to push it left to right? Where does that mean my start line needs to be? And honestly, I mean, coming off of an indoor off season, it was a lot to kind of
Yeah.
adjust to on the fly. And I would say I'm very, very proud of how our team did that, and just how we were able to adjust like that each day, because that's not something that you can kind of, I mean, the day of, you can't really prepare for it
Right.
beforehand. You just have
Right.
to kind of adjust and prepare on
Hmm.
the
And adapt.
fly
Yeah.
and adapt to it. I mean, as you're standing on the tee, it's like, okay, what does it feel like today?
Hmm.
This feels opposite than yesterday, so that means my start line's going to be way opposite. So I thought we did a pretty good job of that, and yeah, I will say it was a lot harder than I expected, that aspect of it,
Yeah.
coming off of an off season with indoor practice where we don't have to think about those things a whole lot.
Hmm. Yeah, so we as a team, I think there were either 12 or 15 teams there. We finished second.
Hmm.
Um, I think at some point during the first round, we were like fifth, sixth, or seventh, and then we
Yeah.
really made a really good push. I think really the final few holes on the
Yes.
36 hole day. Um,
We had
we had a lot of
a
birdies
handful
coming
of
in.
birdies
Yeah.
on our last 3 or 4 holes as a
Hmm.
team, which really helped move us up a little bit.
Yeah, and then we maintained second place round two. Vanderbilt
Yeah.
was the team who beat us, and then yeah,
Yeah.
so it was a pretty. I thought it was a pretty solid tournament from all of us coming out of the
Yeah.
winter and adjusting because, like we said, the wind was very. It was just. I mean, that's some of the strongest wind we've played in all season because this fall we didn't actually have that much wind, or if we did, we had been practicing it so much here in
Hmm.
Nebraska that it
Hmm.
wasn't that big a change. But this was a big change coming from
Yeah.
inside
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah.
So
One of the things with all of that that I just thought it was really good to see as a team, and I was very proud of as our team, was just being able to finish how we did on the 36 hole
yeah.
day, because I know that in the fall, that was something that we talked about, and there was some tournaments where it was like, okay, well, we kind of got tired, or our score showed that we were kind of fatigued at the end of the day, or we kind of let some strokes go in the last couple holes. But so I thought, I mean, coming out of the break, having not played 36 holes in a few months,
Since October. Yeah.
yeah, kind of having to get back into that whole thing again of walking all day long, being in the heat for one thing. I mean, that's, in the wind, and just your mind going all day long. And again, just adjusting to all of that on the fly, and then getting to that 10th, 11th, and 12th hour.
Mhm. Mhm.
And for us being able to finish the way that we did, with lots of pars and a few birdies in there, I mean, I think we climbed, I guess I don't know, but I think we climbed multiple
We
spots just
did.
in the last 4 or 5
Yeah.
holes. So that's one thing I think that we can take from, one positive that I think we can take from
Yeah.
this week, because that was not always the case in the fall.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, that was
that was
really
really great.
good. I also think that course, it was kind of an interesting design course, I thought. It was not easy, but it was still gettable. It was kind of
Yeah.
there were some shorter par fives and some you could say shorter par fours, but it was very much risk reward. Like you could take
Yeah.
very aggressive lines
Yep.
off the tee and leave yourself irons into par fives, and you could go
Yep.
for a lot of things, but there was also hazards
Everywhere.
everywhere. There were bushes, and some of the bushes actually weren't hazards. So if you hit in them, you would
Uh-huh.
have to go back and re-tee.
Uh-huh.
So just there was trouble left and
Yeah.
right on every hole, and none of the fairways were like 50 yards wide. I mean, they were
They were
pretty
small.
tight. So anytime you kind of had a miss hit, you could find yourself in a penalty area pretty
Yeah.
quickly and add a shot just like
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So
Well, and I mean, I think most of the holes, I had a tough time just kind of like getting my sense of direction on the course because it was really, you couldn't really see other holes when you
Yeah,
were on a hole because everything was just very, very enclosed and there were just palm trees, hazards, bushes,
lining both
creeks,
sides. Yeah.
like ponds, just everywhere. And they even said, I mean, it was just so dense. Like, if you hit a ball into a hazard, you probably weren't finding it because everything down there is just so dense and like clustered with just bushes and trees. And they told us, like, if you lose a ball, you probably don't want to go looking for it because of the alligators and the snakes. It was
Yeah.
just like everything, it was just packed in there. And it was like once you were on a hole and in the fairway, I just had a really hard time getting a sense of where I even was on the course. Normally, you have a sense of like, oh, clubhouse is that way, or like my teammates are probably over that direction. I
Hmm.
just had no idea when I was out there because everything, you look to your left and you look to your right, and it's just
Hazards.
trees, bushes, hazards. And I don't want to go over there. I don't want to hit my ball here. So it was very much, I just thought it was very much a placement course off the tee.
Yeah.
Like the drive was very, very important. And it
Hmm.
wasn't like, I mean, yeah, the fairways weren't big by any means. You really just had to set yourself up well from the very first shot. Whereas I think a lot of other courses around the green is super tricky. There's a lot of, ups and downs and undulation on the greens, but you kind of have a little bit of leeway with your tee shot, but this course was not that.
No, this course, yeah, like you said, I think it was very important off the tee. It was not quite as important around the greens. I
Yeah,
didn't
I would
think
agree.
because I noticed I put myself there were a couple of times I put myself in spots I was like, "Oh, that's going to be a pretty hard up and down." And it actually wasn't
Mhm.
too bad, but off the tee you could really add up
Mhm.
shots, and I think the wind just made it that much tougher because we played the practice round on Sunday and that wind I thought was the easiest wind, and then we didn't have that wind again, where Sunday a lot of the par fours and fives were downwind, and
Mhm.
so I thought it made it easier off the tee just because when you're downwind, your ball doesn't exaggerate as much.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, but when we played the tournament, a lot of the holes were straight into the wind. So
Yep.
if your ball had any left or right spin, the wind was just going to take it that much more,
Yeah.
which just, I think, especially coming out of indoor, made the holes just look tighter, knowing that,
Yeah.
okay, like you need to have solid contact on this driver, or
Yeah.
else it's going to spray even further.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. The greens I thought were fairly
Mhm.
simple-ish. I mean, they had some stuff to them that you had to know, but and I think that's kind of why, as you mentioned, it was a course that you could score well on. I think if you got your start lines and drive figured out.
Mhm.
And I mean, we saw that Vanderbilt, who won, they were what 29 under or
Yeah.
something like that. So I mean, it
Mhm.
was scoreable, and we were under par as well as a team.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was, there were birdies out there, and there, you were able to make putts if you got on the
Yes.
green once you got on the green, but it really demanded a good drive and
Mhm.
not getting into the hazard on your
Yeah.
drive.
Yes, it did.
So
What would you say you learned, I guess, and feel like you can improve on now, now that we actually competed it and
mhm.
have about 2.5 weeks now until our next tournament?
Yeah, yeah, I think I learned just a lot about my iron shots and playing them in the wind and accounting for wind. And I don't know, I guess sometimes when you get into a round and you're just so focused on everything in the round, sometimes you can forget what's going on with the wind up there, especially we were just amongst a lot of trees where we couldn't feel a lot of stuff. And I just remember that our coach Jeannie, she was with me on one of the par threes, and it was one of it, the hole from, it was hole one. The green was right next to the green for hole two, and hole
Oh,
two was a
mhm.
par three, so we had to walk backwards to get to the tee box on hole two. And where we were standing, kind of on the green of hole one, by the green of hole two, um, our coach, she was like, "Okay, I want you to stand here and feel the wind now, because once you get back onto the tee box, it pretty much goes away and you can't really feel it." And I've just seen the same exact shot from every girl that I've watched come into this because they can't feel the wind and then they get shocked by their ball flight once it gets up
Right.
into the air.
Yep.
So she just had me stand there for a second. Okay, feel the wind. Got it. I'm running some calculations in my head, and then we get back to the tee box, and she helps me with that, and we kind of come up with a plan. But I mean, yeah, shots like that where you can't tell from ground level what the wind's going to be like because of all the trees and all the everything going on. But then, sure enough, as I hit that shot, once it gets to a certain level above the trees, the wind just took it. So
Mhm.
I think just it was good for me to get back out into settings, out of indoor practice, out of technical practice. I mean, there was no room in this tournament for technical thoughts
No,
anywhere because there
not
was
with the
so
conditions.
much to take into account otherwise. So I think just putting myself in that position again where I needed to start thinking about everything, I needed to calculate wind, I needed to look at my lie, the slope of everything, and just kind of figure things out and adjust on the fly. I think that was a big thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it was just competing again for me is the biggest thing. That's the first time I noticed on the first hole. I was like, yeah, my heart rate is up
Yeah.
again, and just all of those things. And more so just trying to play really smart, because I think a lot of times when you have inside practice, you forget, or not forget, but you just don't have as big a focus on
Right.
hitting the ball straight. And it's sometimes, oh, let's just make sure numbers are good, or we're creating distance. But when you're actually out there, it's more about placement
Yeah.
and target shots and just putting yourself in good positions
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just different when you're competing again, especially for a team, when you know your score is going to matter, just being very smart with your decisions. And
Mm-hmm.
that just that whole element, especially when you add wind and new course and penalty areas everywhere.
Yeah.
You just don't
That's
you can't quite create that inside.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. There's something weighing on every shot.
Yes.
Whereas on TrackMan or inside, it's like, oh, shanked that shot, whatever.
Yes.
But no, out here, it's like everything matters again. We have to take every single shot is very, very important. I think that's a good point. I think, yeah, thinking about my own rounds and kind of, afterwards kind of analyzing, okay, what am I taking from this and I need to improve on? What did I do well? I think there was the last few holes of our last day, especially, I wasn't super happy with how I managed them, just because I think I was thinking too much about pushing or trying to make birdies or trying to make up a couple shots that I thought I could get back, specifically on my finishing holes that I thought in my head I was thinking might be birdie holes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just taking from this tournament those lessons again of like, yes, we learned all of those in the fall, and we worked on those a lot in the fall, but kind of realizing, okay, I haven't even been in these situations for a few months now, and working inside all the time like we did over winter, you just lose a little part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so just getting back out there on the course, and yeah, I mean, it was good for me to see that I didn't do it as well as I would have liked, and so now I can kind of take that and put that into our practice now, and then hopefully do better at that at our next tournament.
Yeah.
But just good things to be aware of and start seeing again.
Yes. And I think we all learned, like as a team, I think our mid to long irons, I thought that was probably like collectively like our weakest part of our game. Mm-hmm. And so now it's nice to know, because we have 2.5 weeks now back inside that we can kind of focus on those weaknesses going forward. But there was a lot of really good things. I think collectively as a team, we had a lot of rounds under par. Mm-hmm. We made a lot of birdies, mm-hmm. and I think everyone putted really well, which that's really great coming out. I mean, I think that's one of the hardest things to create in inside practice. So yeah, that was really great.
Yeah, that's true. Especially with inside practice, not having a lot of long putts.
Yes.
I mean, it's really hard to work on the speed with long putts when you're inside. We've done a lot of speed drills with like 10 footers, 15 footers, but once you get out there on a course and you have a 40 footer and you have to put it close, I mean, that's a hard thing to do when you haven't had it.
I think I had one like 75-foot putt out there. I was like, I haven't hit a putt this hard since the fall. Yeah.
So no, I was proud of us there too. We did good with that. But we're going to cut to break here, but we will be back with more stories from our tournament and just a lot of golf stuff. So this is Lindsey Thiele and Megan Whittaker here on Big Red Birdies at 93.7 The Ticket.